Welcome back, my friends, to the D-Rate the Hate podcast. I am your host, Wilk Wilkinson, your blue-collar sage, calming outrage and helping to navigate a world divided by fog and those who would spread that fear, outrage, and grievance. Each week, I'm sharing stories from my path and using the power of conversation and collaboration with my many great guests. Together, we chart a course toward understanding, bridging divides, and fostering a community where wisdom prevails over discord. Friends, it really is about bettering the world one attitude at a time. We did not create the hate, but together we can derate the hate. The only good thing about a bad attitude is we have the ability as individuals to change it. For me, it starts with gratitude and personal accountability. I am so incredibly grateful that you have taken the time to join me for another powerful DTH episode. Please remember to subscribe and share the DTH podcast with your network of friends. If you would like to support the show, check out the Support Us page on the D-Rate the Hate website. With that, my friends, let's get to it. Friends, today I am joined by another remarkable guest and yet another fellow member of the ProHuman Foundation Board of Advisors, filmmaker and journalist, Rob Feld. Rob is a storyteller with an incredible ability to tackle some of today's most divisive topics with insight, empathy, and believe it or not, humor. His latest documentary, Jesters and Fools, is a must-watch. It brings together comedians like Colin Quinn, Mo Amer, Jim Norton, and others while interweaving the social science of Duke professor Chris Bale to reveal an uplifting truth. America is not as polarized as the media might have you believe. You can find it at jestersandfools.com, and I promise it's worth your time. Rob's career spans an impressive range, from directing short films that have premiered at Tribeca and TIFF Kids, to writing for outlets like DGA Quarterly and American Cinematographer, and even teaching screenwriting and directing at NYU. Beyond the screen and page, as I stated, Rob serves on the board of advisors for the ProHuman Foundation, an organization committed to promoting our shared humanity amidst divisive narratives. In this conversation, we're diving deep into polarization, how comedians can help bridge societal divides, and why emotional intelligence and critical thinking are more important than ever. Rob and I explore the impact of social media's distorted realities and the urgent need for real-life connections and conversations. Friends, if you're ready for another thought-provoking discussion that blends humor, wisdom, and a vision for a better tomorrow, stick around. This is yet another great DTH conversation you won't want to miss. Hey friends, it's Wilk, and before we get into this week's incredible episode, I would like to tell you about another podcast that you might like from our friends at Braver Angels. A Braver Way with Monica Guzman is a podcast that's about politics, but it's so completely different from any politics show that you've heard. Each episode leaves you with a better understanding of your fellow Americans, even ones who, when you hear about them on the news, totally confound you. Their goal for the current season, which I absolutely love, is to help you face this election year without losing heart. You can find it at braverangels.org/abraverway or by searching A Braver Way wherever you get your podcasts. Friends, I absolutely love this show, and I hope you'll give it a listen. And with that, let's get to this week's episode. Here we go. Rob Feld, thank you for joining me on the D-Rate the Hate podcast, my friend. I've been looking forward to it. Thank you for joining me.
No, thanks for having me. This is great.
Absolutely, Rob. So first of all, let me just start off and say this is going to be part of a extended series of conversations that I'm having with people who, along with me, are in the board of advisors for the group ProHuman Foundation. And Rob, when I saw that not only that you were a member of that board of advisors, but then started to look at the work that you've been doing, and found out a little bit about your latest book, Jesters and Fools, and how that is kind of focused on the idea that we as a society aren't nearly as divided as some would have you believe. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Let's have this conversation. It looks good to me. And anybody who knows me knows I'm up for talking about polarization, toxic polarization. That's what I do. And so I'm honored to have you here, man. Thank you, Rob.
Thanks. We'll have a very light chat.
Yeah, no,
Easy time.
it's a good thing when people are pointing out the not so obvious fact that we are, as a society, not nearly as divided as some would have you believe. Now, there are forces out there, I think we would both agree, that that try to capitalize on the polarity and try to exacerbate that polarity. So Rob, I let me start off by just giving a quick read of something in the director's notes from Gestures and Fools, so people know what it is that I'm talking about. So you kind of discovered this, Chris Bale's work at the Duke Polarization Lab, and then he says to help bring art to his science, I considered our current canaries in the coal mine, comedians who have unwittingly found themselves on the front lines of our perceived conflicts with each other. I could think of no better vehicle for our story. At its best, humor lets us examine a challenging issue communally. This has been an essential function of art, inviting complex, dangerous ideas to engage our emotions and intellect while holding them framed in imagination and at a safe distance. Okay.
I said that, huh?
You did. It was very profound. I loved it.
I need a copy editor or something. But yeah, no, that sounds familiar. Sounds good.
So where it stands out for me, Rob. Well, first of all, let me let you jump into this, because I think it's a fascinating idea. I'm glad, like I said, that somebody has taken this idea and put it into movie form or documentary form, but the idea of taking the Chris Bale's work and then bringing in the comedians, it's a fantastic blend. So start off by telling the DTH listeners, how did this start for you?
Yeah, I mean, look, it started, I imagine like a lot of it started for you. It starts, and like all art and probably comedy, it starts with pain, right? And you're like, you look around, you go, this hurts, this doesn't make any sense what I'm seeing. I see people in constant conflict, or thinking they're in constant conflict, or leaving their house and kind of vibrating, waiting for someone to cross a line and take down. It's not how I grew up. It's not an environment I grew up in. It wasn't a mentality, and and it seemed clearly counterproductive, not a way to run a society, and not even necessarily real, because you look online or you look on news and you just see the outrage industry gearing constantly, and then you just go to the store and to buy something, and that's not what you see. You see people who they're just being people, but so much of our awareness, we live through these devices, these screens, and this screen is a composed thing. Someone or something is composing content for you, and it misses everything outside of the frame. And everything outside of the frame is the full spectrum of reality, right? Mm-hmm. And this is a concentrated, contrived world. So anyway, feeling that and trying, and as a filmmaker, I think visually, and I got to tell a story. That's all I know how to do, really. And so what story was there to tell? And it got me doing a lot of research, reading a lot, talking to different academics. And I landed with Chris Bale at Duke, who was just about to publish a book called Breaking the Social Media Prism. I got the rights to it. He was very generous. And I loved his approach, which was very human. He was looking online and looking at data, but it's classic social science. It's how do people behave? Put them in a situation, and how do we consistently behave when we are put in tribal situations or our identities are threatened? What do we do? And so his experiments and the other experiments that he talked about really illuminated the human factors that drive us to believe that those people over there are a danger to us. And if we think they're a danger, well, then I'm going to hate them. And it becomes this cycle. So his goal is to basically raise the middle, right? Most people are moderate, either in their politics or at least their temperament, and we have, maybe it's 13% of the population, depending on who you ask, who are extreme personalities. And whatever they're driving, whatever their agenda is, be it on the left or the right, it's not really about the policy. It's them. It's something in them that is going on, and they need to exercise it. So the idea is, look, if the broad middle is so intimidated by the crazy, it disappears from view. And all that we're left with is the crazy. And we believe, well, that must be the world outside because of the crazy. That's all I can see. And Twitter blew up who cares if Twitter blew up today? No one's on Twitter, right? There's a couple of people on Twitter, a tiny percentage. It doesn't represent the country, but oh well. Anyway, so it's amazing. It's great science, but it's pretty wonky, or can be. So my feeling was, well, who will get the absurdity of this that will help me tell a compelling, enjoyable story, and who gets absurdity better than a comedian, right? So they find the metaphors, they tell us, So, my feeling was, well, I'm going to bet that their intuitive observations of what is happening are going to match the science, because comedians are just natural social scientists, right? Yes. So, Look, the long story short is I went and started hanging out at the Comedy Cellar down in Greenwich Village, which is where so many of them start their careers. And I was just living there basically for months on end, slowly nursing a beer, meeting people like Jane Goodall, just like very quietly, not, making any sudden movements until someone's like, what the hell are you doing here? I'm like, oh, well, I'm doing this documentary and maybe you'll relate. It's that, blah, blah. But, over time, so many of them would say, I travel the country from New York to LA and back, every little club. And you're right. I don't see the country that you see online. I talk to people. That's not what this is. It's all an illusion. So, I got a grant. I started shooting, and whoever happened to be in town on the days I had, shoot dates would come, and I talked to them for an hour, and they'd give me this, great quotes and metaphors. And I strung that into this 15-minute short documentary with Chris Bale. And sure enough, I mean, their observations are spot on. They don't have data. They just have a great antenna. And the great ones fire in every direction. They don't have sacred cows. They are happy to shoot at the left, shoot at the right, and call out hypocrisy and nonsense when they see it. And that's why they were so compelling, and why I think the film has found an audience. It resonates with truth because it doesn't have a side. Right. It doesn't try and have a side. The side is us. Is just the social compact that we all have with each other.
Yeah. No, and I think there's so much there that I'd love to unpack with you, Rob, because you're right. So much of what we see online in this faux environment, it's this internet ecosystem that provides this faux sense of reality for people, and they get lost in that and forget what real reality is. And we've all seen these folks that just get so absorbed in what's in that faux environment that you're right, they lose everything outside the frame, and that outside the frame is where reality happens. And then the idea that you have this group, let's just take the sports analogy, right? Everybody within the 10, from 10-yard line to 10-yard line, everywhere in between, is just so worried about speaking up, or so worried about showing themselves, that all you get in that faux sense, in that faux internet ecosystem, is the most extreme voices. It is so ugly. And then the big problem that bothers me, Rob, and I want to get your take on this. The big problem that bothers me is so many people that are within those, from 10-yard line to 10-yard line, are there just living their lives, doing their thing, living their best life for the most part, or getting by or whatever, but they don't engage until they become enraged. And then once they become enraged, they fall over the 10-yard line, go in one direction or the other. They become one of those ugly figures inside the frame, and then now nothing is good there. Nothing is good there. I used to be there. I know what it's like, and it's ugly.
How did you get out?
Man, I tell you what, I got sick of letting things outside of my control me. I got sick of allowing my emotions to be controlled by things that were outside of my control. And that was, call it emotional intelligence, call it just an awakening, an epiphany, whatever it was. But having that ugliness, that pain that I constantly felt of just everything sucks, and I still, obviously doing what I do and engaging with some of the people that I engage with, I still have to fight that. But now I consider it having the emotional intelligence to deal with it in the right way, right. And I try to help other people get out of that ugly quagmire that each end of the football field is, if you want to use that analogy, because the extremes do not actually represent the middle.
Right.
And, whether you want to call them the exhausted majority or the hopeful majority, as my friend Manu Meal from Bridge USA calls them, exhausted middle, whatever. That faux inside the frame, toxic environment that you talk about is not real life. And I want people to understand that. I love like I said, and I love the idea of bringing comedians into the fold here, Rob, because one of the biggest casualties that I have seen, with latest movements, whether you call it woke or cancel culture or whatever, is real true comedy. Like you said, there was a time when they had no sacred cows. They'd go after one side, go after the other. It didn't matter. But now, you look at some of the late night television and everything else. It's very one-sided. It's very toxic. It's not funny anymore. It's toxic.
Yeah.
So maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's a few things. One, look, just to your point earlier, it's, the catastrophizing will drive you crazy, and that isn't to say that we don't have, we should all have, feel things passionately and be passionate about the things that are important to you. And we should debate each other passionately, but that's very different than catastrophizing to the point of saying, well, that person's trying to destroy me and my country and my way of life. That's a different, we don't have to go there, right? We can argue, and the fact is most Americans on most issues really agree within a range on, so many important issues, but because of the way our politics work, you have interest groups and you just can't get to that point. So that's one thing. To the comedy point, I think that you will find in the comedy clubs, it is alive and well. You will, people I don't think, certainly at the Comedy Cellar or, most of the New York clubs, no one feels censored. I've heard of some that they will say, well, we're not going to book you here. And certainly college campuses, they've had a lot of trouble. But I would say that, in terms of you can find what you want, be it online or in the clubs. I think comedy is alive and well. I think you're right. I think in the networks, mostly, they have, like all of the media outlets, have found a niche audience. Because frankly, their viewerships are this big. They're very, very small. And if we think about so there's Fox News and MSNBC, their viewerships are almost nothing, right? Out of 300.
They're all preaching to the choir. They're all preaching to the choir.
They're preaching to the choir, and the choir is this large. In a country of 330, 40 million people, I forget what their actual viewership is, but it's embarrassing, right? So what is happening on those networks is utterly meaningless. But, because that's what's there, it echoes and we think it means something, but it doesn't represent the country, right? And so, I think you're right. You've got, between, late night left-wing comedy and right-wing radio and, everything in just different media, you get different genre of content. But it is absolutely trying to identify an audience and hold on to it desperately because you don't have just 3 networks that dominate a country anymore. You've just got so much media and entertainment, bifurcating an audience that, you really need the niche. And so you use a lot of emotional content that is extreme and identifiable. And you struggle and hang on to survive. But that's kind of what I think.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you bring that up. I mean, it's again, those things aren't a true representation. Whether it be the views of those on Fox News or those on MSNBC or CNN or pick your favorite talk radio show or whatever. Again, back to the idea of catastrophizing and everything's a crisis, and they are literally preaching to the small choir on either end of the field, and it isn't a true representation. So here's my, and this is kind of going back to the idea that we are not as divided as people would, as whatever entity you want to point at would have you believe, and then just talking a little bit about the concept of affective polarization and things like that. Where my big concern is, Rob, is when people do start, thinking of so-and-so politician as their celebrity du jour or whatever, or they start watching a particular station or listening to a particular radio show or following a particular, outrage entrepreneur. They start to see others as being, they start to find ways to relate more to people on they call it our side, and they start to think in more negative terms about those on the other side, and that us versus them divide starts to grow.
Well, it's natural.
A little bit about how do you see the solution for that playing out?
The solution. I mean, look, what I appreciated about Chris Bale's work is that he doesn't take away agency from us, and the problem is that thinking is hard. Thinking is tiring, and life is very hard. Life is, I don't care where you are, who you are, how much you make or don't. Life is hard. There's, everyone's got issues, and everyone's frankly just trying to live long enough to die, and, and you take shortcuts, and you got your kids, you got your family, you got this one's sick, this one's whatever, right? I mean, you got a sick kid, mine's I got to get to bed, she's crying, she's got a tooth that's about to fall out, it's freaking her out. I don't have time in my life for, I don't have room in my brain for too much. And, look, we find patterns, we look for patterns, and we look for stories and easy stories. And we let that stuff in very easily because it's a good story, so it makes sense to us. And so, if I find something that's a shortcut, that's an intellectual shortcut or an emotional shortcut that lets me just explain away what's happening here, I'm going to take it, because otherwise I've got to think, and I've got to fight. I've got to go, oh, well, okay, I understand they just said that, but I understand that, all these other people I know are not like that at all. And I have to think about them and remember this, but and then back myself off from the cliff of of being freaked out and hating those people because I think they're now a danger to me. And it's much easier to go, oh, to hell with those people. I hate, they're so crazy, and they're evil and they're trying to destroy my country, and fuck them. And that's easy. And even emotionally satisfying sometimes because I'm just frustrated, angry. But it's not the truth. And, we all ignore the truth to our detriment. And it's not good for our health. It's not good for us to walk around with this feeling here. So what what's the solution? I mean, some of it is, look, our kids need media training. They need media education. They have to understand the frame. They have to understand this is a frame and everything outside of it is life, and this is composed, and that takes a conscious effort to teach them and for them to realize we all have to learn. We've got to practice these skills of just taking a breath, of asking questions. Someone says something that that tweaks you. The great question to ask, I've learned through all this is tell me more. Please tell me more. And, and instead of just doing the knee jerk, getting your back up and like, well, I'm going to tell you what, whatever, to do the conversation and not get defensive. And that way the person hopefully won't get defensive. And if you have an exchange, which is frankly what most people are still capable of, you just wouldn't know it. You'll realize that, no, maybe you don't ultimately agree on the solution, but you are probably coming from a similar ultimate place of wanting everyone to be happy. Right. It's hard work. Yeah. And it takes a consciousness, it takes an awareness. And, when your life is full of stress, as we are all under, it is hard to do that. There's just no question.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a couple things there that you said, Rob, that I want to key on. To just emphasize for the people listening is it takes a conscious effort, not only of the person that's actually absorbing what's in the frame, but especially when it comes to kids, a conscious effort on the part of the parents to teach, not only teach in a true parental kind of way, but teach by example. Teach by example, because there's going to come a time when your kids are going to see the kind of things that you're saying to people that you have no idea who they are, and you have to really show them by example that all the catastrophism is not true catastrophe. All the chaos is not true chaos. The things that you're seeing within this little handheld box are not real life, and these people that I'm saying these very ugly things to is not the right way to do this. So that concerted effort on the part of not only person absorbing whatever they're absorbing there, but the parents when it comes to our kids, I think it's incredibly important. The other thing that you said there is the idea that we cannot. Oh, I just lost it. I think it was something. I'm sorry. I think it's just the idea that there's so much there that is not real life, and the battles. If we want to accomplish real things in the real world, we cannot pretend that we're going to do it through that scripted thing, that faux internet ecosystem that we have in our hands. We've got to actually make a difference outside the frame.
Yeah, you've got to talk to human beings, and we got to teach kids how to do that. Look, I mean, it's teaching our kids, how to think, not what to think. Obviously, we give them values and baselines, but it's getting them to ask the questions and not indoctrinating. I know we all want them to be little versions of us, but no, I mean, like they should, you want them to be critical thinkers and get them to ask the question. Little kids are full of, they're little Puritans. I mean, they have hardcore opinions on whatever, and they're very adamant. but I try and take that apart, and get them to think about it, as all of our kids need to do, and just increasingly so. The digital era is making our need to be truly critical, unfortunately, right up front, all the time.
Yeah, and when I think about that, I just really hope that if they are going to become little versions of me, they find the version of me that happened after I was like 40.
You're right.
Before that, it was really a mess. So yeah, the reality though, and this kind of leads into kind of how I want to tail out the end of our conversation here is that pro-human approach. We both sit on the board of advisors for the ProHuman Foundation, phenomenal organization, founded by our friends Daryl Davis, Letitia Kim, Brian Bartneen, and then now headed up by Lori Warren. The organization itself really does focus on our common humanity, that we all want the same basic things for ourselves, for our family, for the world we live in, things like that. Rob, tell me how you ended up being part of this organization, and kind of what it is that you hope to bring or contribute in this thing.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I think that anything that is trying to look at us individually and not as identities, I think is really where we want to be right now. That isn't to say we don't all have, some sense of identity. We can't not. It's part of our psyche, and it's fantastic. I mean, it's great. I've traveled good big swaths of the world, and I love going to see how different it is in a different place, and cultures, and different ways of doing it. It's enriching to me. I learned so much. I grew up in New York City with 7 million at the time other people who did things differently than I did, and we were all meshed up together, and I loved it. But the question is, do we lead with this tribal sense, and anything that comes at it that's different we view as an attack, or do we view each other and ourselves as individual people who are open to everybody else, and not feeling threatened by some other way of doing, some other identity? And that's how I live. I'm so curious. I'm so happy to talk to you. You live in Minnesota. I live in New York area. Just very different ways of living. I love to go get a beer and just hear about it. And so, any organization or group of people, it's really just a community to have that is trying to share that and lead with that, I think is very important.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, the idea that, here in 2024, that there is still this big push by so many to label certain groups or imagine that certain people based on immutable characteristics or some kind of monolithic group of thinkers, and it is bothersome. So that's why I just absolutely love the idea of the ProHuman Foundation being this organization that's going to go out there, get in. We talked a lot about whether it be in the pre-show or actually this episode, just our kids and the importance of showing kids the right way. And you mentioned in there, Rob, the fact that we do still have the capability to have real life conversations, face-to-face conversations with people, and the idea of exposing ourselves to different people of different groups, and having conversations. Again, not ones that it doesn't have to be with people of a complete like mindset. We can have conversations in this day and age, contentious conversations, but done in a non-contentious way.
We must.
And we have to be able to do that.
We must. I mean, I say all the time, when I was a kid in high school, we'd sit by the lockers, we'd argue about everything, call each other like commies and fascists, and then go get pizza and play handball. Like, right. That was it. And we were figuring out who we were and figuring out what we believed and testing our ideas. And, no one knew what the hell we were talking about. We were kids, but, we were trying things, and that didn't stop us from being friends. And to bring it back to the movie and this group of comedians for a second, they are an interesting mashup of contradictions. If you look at him in the things they say, Jim Norton or Dean Edwards and Mo Amer, Muhammad Amer, their experiences and the things they say. If you were to just say, well, their identity would say they're this, that there's nothing at all to do with who they are. Right. And that's why I found them compelling, and they are just, look, they're avatars for most of us. They're just a lot funnier than us. They're funnier while they're being human.
I got to tell you, this has been fantastic conversation, Rob. The movie is Jesters and Fools. You can find more at jestersandfools.com. I look forward to a continued relationship here, my friend. This has been fantastic.
Thank you so much, man.
Friends, if there's anything in this episode that provided exceptional value to you, please make sure to hit that share button. Share it with your friends, share it far and wide. And of course, if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe right from our website so you can get the D-Rate the Hate podcast sent to your email inbox every week. So this is Wilk wrapping up for the week, saying get out there, be kind to one another, be grateful for everything that you've got, and remember, it's up to you to make each and every day the day that you want it to be. If there is something that you would like to share with me, you can catch me on most social media platforms, or you can email me directly, wilk@wilksworld.com. With that, my friends, I am going to back on out of here, and we will catch you next week. Take care.